Well, bankers on Wall Street are a little extra jolly this season as they give themselves a pretty nice gift. Money wrapped in a bow with a price tag of $91.44 billion. Because this year, that is the total sum of extra cash bankers will be receiving as holiday bonuses. In fact, it's so much money that bankers don't know what to do with it. But one group called the other 98% has proposed another idea for where that money could go.
You know what Wall Street could do with that money instead of spending it on watches, gadgets, and cars? They could help homeowners.
The other 98% is asking that bankers give their bonuses to the homeowners who no longer have homes. To talk about this initiative and how it might be mutually beneficial for both the homeless and Wall Street, I was joined earlier by the other 98%'s Alexis Goldstein. Well, you're trying to sell this idea of giving the money to the banker, or excuse me, giving the money to the homeless people. From a PR standpoint for the bankers, can you talk a little bit about that too?
Well, right. So we sort of saw this as a win-win, right? I mean, I think that the banks would be doing the right thing, but they're also going to get a PR boost from this because nobody really likes them still. They're still this big fund. So I think if they were to just do this very common sense thing and take one hit in 1 year, it would do a lot to boost their image. And instead, they're spending all these money on advertising while they're still lobbying behind the scenes. Why don't they just do it for their own PR, let alone the sort of charitable nature of it?
Absolutely. What's the next step?
Well, I think we're going to try to keep bringing the heat and telling the story. You know, maybe you'll see some creative actions in the new year when the banks actually get their bonuses, because they usually don't actually get them on Christmas. And I think we're just going to keep trying to shine a big spotlight on the fact that, listen, $83 billion a year in government subsidies and you're paying yourself $90 billion in bonuses. There's something really wrong with that
Well, it's
picture.
a noble cause, and we will follow up with you to see what happens. Thank you so much, Alexis Goldstein, Communications Director for the other 98%. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
Thanks for spending your time with us as we wrap up 2013's amazing monetary debacle of the decade. Come on, man.
And of course, we don't have enough time to cover all the debacles that went on this year.
If you think that any of your currency, any of your investments are safe with these guys in charge, you got another thing coming. In 2008, we saw that the Canadian government bailed out our banks and then didn't tell us.
That's right. And of course, this year, the bankers got rewarded for their wise fiscal policy.
Aren't you happy they did that? Make sure you check out our facts, too, while we run video radio. And we want you to check out what the IMF does.
That's right.
It creates poverty around the planet. Everywhere that it goes, it's just absolute monetary destruction. And a few countries are even kicking them out. Way to go, Hungary. But we want you to check out the facts behind the Philippines and the IMF.
We turn now to the Philippines, where the holidays were observed with a mixture of gratitude and somberness as the country continues to recover from Typhoon Haiyan.
On Christmas Eve, the Philippines reached a grim milestone, $1 billion in debt payments since the typhoon hit. For more, we go to Washington, D.C., where we're joined by Eric LeCompte. He is the executive director of Jubilee USA Network. Eric, welcome to Democracy Now! Talk about this debt and what this means, given how hard hit the Philippines is from the typhoon.
So when we're looking at the amount of aid so far, it's been absolutely incredible how countries around the world have delivered about $350 million in aid, $51 million from the U.S. government alone. But it's completely dwarfed by the debt payments that are continued to be made by the country of the Philippines. They're paying down over $60 billion in debt. This year alone, they will pay over $6.7 billion. Since the typhoon hit, over $1 billion. So we see that the amount of debt is unsustainable. Over 20% of the income of the Philippines goes towards paying down the debt. And what makes this whole situation even worse is that the roots of this debt are from the corrupt regime of Ferdinand Marcos.
Can you just talk about what you're calling for?
And we're asking President Jim Kim of the World Bank to immediately have a moratorium on debt payments. The World Bank, as well as the Asian Development Bank, hold the majority of loans in the Philippines right now. So we want a moratorium on the debt. More broadly, we want to see debt audits take place around the world. We want to see the implementation of an international bankruptcy process to work out these unsustainable debts. And we want to see basic regulations for responsible lending and borrowing implemented in the international financial system.
Okay, so what do you think?
Well, I think they should probably get their audit done on the World Bank system.
Audit the banks. That'll happen.
Fractional
reserve lending.
Maybe it's time to step up and do some debt forgiveness.
Yeah, fiat currency, stuff like that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I mean, really, look it up, man. It's really weird. If you do know what I'm talking about, join us because we've got some actions coming up about that one. The Vatican.
There was a few fiscal problems with their financial institutions in 2013.
Oh my gosh, a few fiscal problems?
They caused PJ Morgan Chase to suspend trading with the Vatican Bank.
Man, I wish we had a clip on this.
Oh, we do. Just wait. It's coming up.
The Vatican Bank is facing a possible money laundering scandal after it emerged JP Morgan was closing one of its accounts due to a lack of information about the source of deposits, Italian newspapers report. The bank, officially known as the Institute of Works of Religion, IOR in Italian, reportedly failed to provide a Milan affiliate of JP Morgan with details about payments into the account, in which 1.8 billion euros has been deposited in the past 18 months. Earlier this month, the bank was listed by the U.S. State Department as being potentially vulnerable to money laundering, Britain's Daily Telegraph reported. JP Morgan had been requesting information on the source of deposits since 2010, after the IOR was accused of breaking money laundering regulations by authorities in Rome, the Telegraph reported. According to Italian Financial Daily, JP Morgan Milan told the Vatican it would begin a phased closing of the account on March 16th. The paper added the account was a sweeping facility and was emptied every day with the funds transferred to an IOR account in Germany. This latest incident follows a series of scandals involving the bank's checkered financial past. This is Julia Telfer with IB Times TV.
Now, I gotta say that Pope Francis just came out and said that the trickle-down theory does not work. He had some pretty good, convincing arguments about that.
Maybe he can get this mess straightened out.
And we're kind of wondering because this is like the most progressive Pope I've ever seen in my life.
And he's driving the conservative Catholics nuts.
I mean, this guy is not a New Earth guy. He's actually got a brain cell, and I'm wondering what's coming up next. So, look, stay tuned. Radio Free on Facebook. That's where we're doing the controversial Pope subject topic.
Oh, we'll be covering Pope Francis very much in the coming year.
For sure. Okay. So,
however, we'll also still be covering the rate rigging scandal that's been going on with U.S. banks between LIBOR, Euribor, Forex, energy markets. They've been rigging everything like crazy. And of course, for this criminal behavior, they have to pay a fine.
let's check this out.
Is that it turns out that the top banks rigged the markets, and they've been fined over and over for it now. And the latest fine is a $2.3 billion fine from the European Union antitrust regulators, and it goes to Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, Citigroup, Societe Generale, JP Morgan, and RP Martin. Yes, that's an international collection of banks that literally got together and decided, yeah, that thing that they call LIBOR, which sets the interest rate for all of us, we're going to rig it. LIBOR affects $300 trillion worth of assets and contract. This is a laughable fine after unbelievable transgressions. So now Joaquin Almunia, sorry for butchering the name, EU Competition Commissioner, says, what is shocking about the LIBOR and Euribor scandals is not only the manipulation of benchmarks, which is being tackled by financial regulators worldwide, but also the collusion between banks who are supposed to be competing with each other. Reuters says JP Morgan confirmed its €79.9 million penalty in the LIBOR case, but said it would defend itself in the Euribor case. Now, meanwhile, the CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, goes around constantly like, what are people complaining about? I don't know. I don't know why they don't like us bankers. Maybe it's because you rob us over and over and over again.
So, rigging the game.
What do you think? Is it time to stop being angry at bankers?
I don't know. Iceland threw 4 more bankers in jail. Hooray for them. I mean, if we had those cool sound effects, there'd be a big cheer and clap.
Of course, the Attorney General of the United States has come out and said some banks may be too large to prosecute because it would cause a risk to our economy.
Yes, whenever you say, hear them say economy on the news, substitute the words bank profits and you'll understand what we're talking about. The TPP is the biggest crime that we've seen in recent trade history.
It's a total corporate coup which will totally dissolve a nation's sovereign rights.
You know, and our nation is right now spearheading this program. Stephen Harper is selling our sovereignty away.
Because it's all about the moolah.
So check this out.
Secret memos are like Christmas gifts here at Buzzsaw. And this one regarding the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Controversial provisions revealed in the new leaked memo is the corporate empowerment language that is being insisted upon by the U.S. government. This language would allow foreign companies to challenge the laws or regulations of partnership countries in a privately run international court. Major usurpation of U.S. sovereignty is just one of the many reasons the Obama administration has deemed the TPP negotiations to be classified information, which makes sense given that the only people in this country who are affected by the TPP negotiations are, well, every single U.S. citizen.
If this goes through, the Trans-Pacific Partnership will control 40% of the global gross domestic product.
Yeah.
You know, and these are just a few of these things that have been in these leaked memos. One is that the Obama administration is also seeking to curtail the use of capital controls by foreign governments. These can include extremely broad variety of financial tools, from restricting lending in overheated markets to denying mass international outflows of currency during like a financial panic, basically taking away any kind of power a country has over its financial markets, so that way the bankers and the corporations and the Wall Street types can go in and run roughshod with no regulation whatsoever. You know, because you got to remember, the loss of these tools would dramatically limit the ability of governments to prevent and stem banking crises.
Right.
They want to be able to go in and loot.
Yes.
And they're going to use the TPP to do that.
So don't forget, folks, that trade deals have very little to do with trade and mostly about corporate control over our sovereign rights.
So if you're looking at the news and they've got some weird bearded guy on there talking about some medieval philosophies that are vitally important to a reality TV show, realize that there's probably a story behind there, like the TPP or NAFTA, that they are ignoring.
Or CETA.
Or CETA, or the Atlantic thing, or whatever. Just get informed, because our sovereignty is getting traded away. I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
We've got more to go as we wrap up 2013 and we start talking about what's on our notes.
Pushback.
Yeah. Some people are making some big changes. We're here to talk about it. We'll be right back.
The idea behind TAFTA, the Transatlantic Free Trade Agreement, is to generate billions of dollars of business between the United States and the European Union. Well, it all sounds great. However, the amount of snags that this deal has hit over the time since it's been put on the table suggests that not everybody's happy with everything that it would contain.
I mean, Germany and the EU is nothing else than, let's face it, slaves of the United States. Politicians are saying, oh, this is very bad, they're spying on us, they're spying on Angela Merkel, but there is no real consequence out of it, you know?
What this could end up seeing is that trade could end up determining the laws of a country. How will that go down in Germany?
Let's face it, I mean, this treaty is nothing else than submitting the EU working force to the good of US corporacy. They want to put and dictate their own rules to the whole world and also to the EU. It won't have any advantage at all. This is all a hoax, it's all a lie, and nobody on the streets wants it. We have our own rights, we have our own laws, they're working fine. Why should we submit ourselves to the Monsanto mafia? They are the ones that are profiting from this tweeting, nothing else.